Hey, it's James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC Macau, taking a look at the biggest winners and losers from the event. And this was an easy one. Biggest stock riser on this card is the man who headlined this event, and that was Yadong getting a second-round submission victory over Deiveson Figueiredo. He looked great in this fight. He looked like a minus 600 favorite, and the stats back this up as well. 24 significant strikes compared to just 9, 1 takedown done. This was a good win, and again, this was kind of an easier opponent for Yadong if you look sort of going in. A lot of people were like, hey, it would have been great to see him fight someone else. But, you know, this was a win on all accounts here. You're in Macau, obviously. You got Yadong, who's from China. And this was sort of set up for him to look good, and he did. He gets the finish. And if you look at Deiveson Figueiredo, pretty durable guy for the weight class. Like, if you look at some of his losses here, they're mostly decision. Umar didn't finish him. Corey Sandhagen did finish him, but it was a knee injury. You look at Petr Yan didn't finish him. So to me, this was sort of, sort of a breakthrough win here for Yadong, who himself has not got a ton of finishes. He had the no contest with obviously Henry Cejudo a couple fights back. He goes the distance with O'Malley. So yeah, that ends in a technical decision there. I forgot about that. Yan the distance, Chris Gutierrez distance. He gets a Ricky Simone finish in like round 5. But if you look at it overall, at least recently, the last couple fights, it's been a lot of fights that have gone to the judges' scorecard. So I think this is big for Yadong to get this victory. And look, he's 28 years old. I think we forget that he is pretty young in the weight class. Of course, he joined the UFC when he was in his early 20s. Coming in 2017. So I think there's still some room for growth. I think this is a step in the right direction. And like I said, the fact that he went out there and finished this fight, I think really propels his stock up the division. And if we have a quick look at the UFC rankings, which I'll do right now, where's Yadong ranked right now? He's currently ranked number 5. So, you know, he could probably get like, you know, I could see a fight if Ayman Zahabi ends up losing to O'Malley. You could do him and Song next. There's a few options for him. Of course, he has fought a lot of guys in this weight class already, but I think this really opens things up, and I think this puts him back in sort of the contender spot. So huge win there for Yadong, who gets it done in the main event of UFC Macau. Okay, second biggest stock riser on this card to me, and this especially has to do with the division, is Sergey Pavlovich. Again, similar story here. Big betting favorite going into the fight. What was he at? He was a minus 625. So, I mean, he does what he's expected to do. It's 39 seconds. But the reason this is so big is because heavyweight is one of those divisions that it is wide open right now. And look, I don't think many people were picking Tailton Teixeira going into this fight. But if you look here at heavyweight, you got Pavlovich, who's number 3. Like, he's right behind, Volkov basically. And then obviously you got the Gon and Pereira fight coming up here. But I think this situates him very nicely with the fact that we do have the interim heavyweight title fight coming up here pretty soon with Pereira and Cyril Gon. So he's right behind there, and that's all he needed to do. And the fact he did it so quickly really helps his case here, because if you look at some of Pavlovich's past performances, I think he had the win over Waldo as well, if I'm not mistaken. So again, Waldo was a decision win. Rosenstruck was a decision win. He loses the decision of Volkov. This is actually his first stoppage win since the Blades knockout back in 2023. So again, similar story to the main event here. You get Pavlovich, he gets a quick finish here. Very impressive. And again, puts him in that category of, we now have some options at heavyweight as far as contenders go. Because remember, a lot of people were not happy about Gon getting another, title shot here. But the fact of the matter is, he has always remained at the top there. Now we got some more players in the mix here with Pavlovich and Volkov. And, again, there's a lot of moving parts at heavyweight right now. So big one there for Sergey Pavlovich on the main card of this. And he gets it done. And then my third biggest stock riser on this card has got to be Alonzo Menifield. What is up with this guy? He continues to win as an underdog. Plus 205, takes out Zhang. We'll talk about Zhang a little bit later here, but he's got a couple wins now where he was a heavy underdog. The C fight, I think he was like minus 800 in that one, minus 715, close enough. And he gets it done, and he does it in enemy territory, which is super impressive. So, I don't know where Menifield's really going to go in his career. He does have a lot of, interesting wins in the weight class. He's kind of one of those, you got guys in weight classes, like Michael Johnson was someone at lightweight who had a win over Poirier, and then other high name fighters. I think Menifield's kind of the light heavyweight version of this, because you look at some of his wins here, like Jacoby, that's a win that's aged well. He's now got Zhang. C was a big favorite here. So yeah, he's still sticking around. Again, light heavyweight, if you look at it right now, for kind of looking at the division, We got the new champ, obviously. There's not a ton of activity going on, although some guys are getting booked. Some guys are moving up, like Johnny Walker. So I think Menifield's in a good spot. The only issue here right now is he's 38. How much of a run can he really go on? I think there is still a little bit of a ceiling there with Menifield, but hey, great job going into enemy territory, getting it done, and he gets a bonus to boot. So Alonzo Menifield, another big stock riser on this card. Okay, and I'll give two honorable mentions here on the stock report, fighters that certainly raised their stock. How about Kaya Sakura getting his first UFC win, which is just crazy to think when he came over. Everyone thought he was going to, do quite well, but he gets choked out against Pantoja and Tim Elliott, bounces back in a big way against Cameron Smotherman, and that's an easy way to get people on your side, is get a first round finish here. So he does it, he gets it done. Excited for the future here with Kaya Sakura, who is obviously in a new weight class here at bantamweight. So big win there for him. He gets an honorable mention, and I'll give one to Rhea as well. Tsura taking out Luis Goulet, and this is mainly because he had a big layoff coming into this fight. Still 23 years old, someone to certainly keep an eye on in the flyweight division. His only loss is against the current champ Joshua Van. So he's been out since for more than a year. What a way to come back and choke out Luis Goulet, who just fought a couple weeks ago. So big win there for Ray, getting it done in the very first round. Okay, let's get to our stock droppers on this card. This one I think is kind of obvious, but maybe you guys have a different view on this, and that's going to be Zhang. And the reason I'm picking him over Deiveson Figueiredo is just for the simple fact that look at where he was 2 fights ago. Okay, he had beat Anthony Smith, he beat Ozzy Diaz Ribeiro. Everyone in their mother thought that he was going to beat Johnny Walker in that fight. He was a big favorite, minus 370. It was sort of thought as like, okay, we finally have like a really interesting prospect at 205, and he gets finished in that fight. And you can understand because obviously Walker had a good game plan and sort of hacking at the legs, and then he ends up getting the finish. And then he fights an even older fighter here in Alonzo Menifield in Macau. So, again, you're going to have the crowd on your side and everything else. And he gets finished in the first round. He's not the prospect we all thought he was. I think that's where we're at. And he's 27. So we're kind of getting to that age now a little bit where, it's like you got to kind of figure it out. But the concerning part here is now that's 5 losses by knockout throughout his career. Even before the UFC, he had been knocked out a few times. So do we have chin issues now? Is it something to kind of keep in mind here? And I don't think it's like a weight cut thing, because he's not like, he's 6'2" with the 75-inch reach. That's that's something a bit interesting there too. So yeah, I just think this was a very big missed opportunity, kind of like the last fight here for Zhang, just because it looked like prior to the Walker fight, there was a lot of promise, a lot of build in the division. And now that's all out the window right now. And now he's got to be fighting for his job in his next fight. So tough one there for Zhang, who ends up getting finished in the very first round. And then I kind of alluded to it there. Other big stock dropper here is Deiveson Figueiredo. And look, I've said this for a while. I don't think it's anything, like a hot take, but he just has not had the same success at flyweight that he's had at bantamweight. And I think a lot of the advantages he had at flyweight, he's a little bit bigger, he could hit really hard. We haven't seen a lot of that in this weight class. And now we're getting to the point where he's just not being competitive, and he gets, finished in the second round here. He goes the distance with Umar, but Umar, if you go look at the stats for that fight, he basically Umar controlled that entire fight, 34-8. Like this is what I mean. Like Deiveson is not getting finished early. He did get finished in the second round here, but these fights aren't competitive, and these are the contenders in the division. And yes, he did beat Montel Jackson a couple fights back, but we kind of know that Montel Jackson maybe not that great. So he's fighting the best of the best. I'll give him that. He's definitely fighting the top guys, but like, where does he fit now, and what do you do with them? I think the UFC uses Figueiredo now to build up other guys. They kind of did in this situation, but I see them going even further down the ladder. Your Raul Rosas, these types of guys that I think they're going to just feed Figueiredo to going forward, because he's not winning fights. And again, my issue here is that they're not competitive. Like Umar and Song Yadong, again, 2 really good fighters in the weight class, but these fights aren't competitive. Again, his knee gave out against Corey Sandhagen. So yeah, I don't know how much longer we're going to see Deiveson Figueiredo or what's next for him, but I think if he does want to fight and you're the UFC, you figure out a way to just build other guys off of him. But he's had a great career. Again, one UFC champion at flyweight. Very impressive, but certainly his stock has gone down here. And then our other big stock dropper here on this card, again, similar thing to Zhang, is that Talshin Teixeira, if you remember prior to the, the Derek Lewis fight, looked like he was a guy to, keep an eye on. And now that's 2 losses in his last 3 fights, 2 first-round finishes. He is young. I'll give him that at 26. But, again, if you're getting knocked out like this, and he didn't look that good against Tai Tuivasa either. So I do wonder what the leash is like here on Teixeira as far as his UFC career goes. But yeah, very tough loss for him there. And Yeah, I mean, again, I think I rate Pavlovich pretty high. I think there are heavyweights he would probably be competitive with, like your Tai Tuivasas, but you're not going to get those fights all the time. And I think he's really got to go back to the drawing board here and figure things out because, yeah, big, kind of a tough one there for him as well. And I'll give a quick honorable mention here to Cameron Smotherman, only because if you remember when he started his career, looked very promising here. He gets the win over Jake Hadley, and now it's 0-3 since then. And, Asakura, again, very, very talented guy, but I don't know. Does he get another fight? I would think because I want to say this was short notice or some sort of like didn't get a ton of notice for this fight. I wonder if he gets one more just because he did kind of do the UFC a favor taking that short notice UFC debut, but we'll find out. And then, of course, the weight cut issue and all that stuff with him falling on the scale the fight before. So tough one there for Cameron Smotherman. Again, 28 years old, and he's got 3 straight losses in the UFC. So let me know in the comments your 3 biggest stock risers, your 3 biggest stock droppers. Would love to hear from you. I always like getting your lists and seeing how you guys look at things differently. Again, this is just my criteria. There's no right or wrong answers here, but this is how I kind of like looking at the overall, landscape of the MMA, UFC, industry, so to speak, and where fighters sort of fit in there. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next Sunday for another edition of the Stock Report.